Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bettinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today I'd like to show you how I made this box. This is referred to as a stationery box, and the way it works is I'll just turn it to the side here so you can see, is the lid comes off and then the box opens to reveal an inside that has a lot of component pieces in it. In here is room for 5 full-sized A2 cards and envelopes. I have 4 3x3 cards and envelopes in here, and I have 4 gift tags in here. Then on the lower part of the box here is a 3x3 or standard post-it note pad and holder, a place for your pen, and a small pocket here to put postage stamps. This particular box I have a new daughter-in-law whose birthday is coming up here very soon, and this is the box that I'm going to send her for her birthday. So I wanted to make a video though before it got away, and to have another one because I want one for myself. They're so cool. And so the way it works then is when you're all done, you fold the lid or fold the box back up again, and you put the lid back on, and then you can set it aside. And I made this out of black cardstock and then this beautiful paper from Whole Lot of Lovely designer series paper pack. And so what I'm going to do is show you how to make this box. And I know it looks complicated with all these parts and pieces on the inside, and I've got to tell you, I was shocked at how simple it was to make. And so what I'm going to do is go through how I made the box, and I want to do it in such a way that I'm not going to bring all of the pieces out except to show you as we go through, because there's a lot of pieces and a lot of measurements, and I think it's more reasonable to go through it sort of one piece at a time here as we're making the box. It's more logical and seems to make a little bit more sense. I know that when I first looked at it on YouTube, the woman whose video I first came across was someone who made, gosh, I should have written down the name. I'll make sure that the link is below, and a link to the video, her original video that was in 2008. So this is not a new idea. This has been around for a while. The main components that you need are a piece of, in this case, black. This is going to make the box base, and this piece is going to make the lid. And then the other pieces will go through as we go through it. So this is 12 by 12 piece of black, and then this is 10 3/8 by 6 3/8, and this makes the lid. So I'll be referring to my notes here. This one we're going to score, and I'm going to try to be very mindful of having, one, my voice loud enough that you can really hear me, and two, that this is on camera so you can see what I'm doing. So the very first thing I'm going to do is score this piece at 3 inches, and then we're going to score it at 9 inches. And then we're going to turn this around 90 degrees, and we're going to score it at 5 inches, and then we're going to score it at 7 inches. And that is all the scoring there is to this base. And I think we'll just stick with the base for the time being and go ahead and get that put together so you can see more systematically as we go how we're doing this. So the first thing to do here, I think you can see those score lines here. We've got this little narrow strip down the middle is the bottom of the box. So what we're going to do is we are going to cut up these score lines to this score line that's coming across here. And I'm just going to take my snips and cut right up the score line. I found that that seems to work the best. So, I like doing my cutting before I folded and burnished my lines. It seems like I get a little bit cleaner cuts that way. So we're going to come up here and cut up this score line to that first score line, and we've made basically a little flap. And I can see I didn't cut that exactly right. Okay, so we're going to do exactly the same on the other side. So right up the score line to this score line that's coming across. Okay, and then again right up this score line here to that piece that's coming across. And then what we're going to do, and I'm going to use fast fuse on this. You can use liquid glue. I would say fast fuse or liquid glue because this is going to be opened and manipulated, so you want to make sure that it's a very, very strong glue that you're putting on. So now I will fold and burnish all of my score lines here. Grab my bone folder here. So I'm just going to fold and burnish all of these score lines. Okay. Okay, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to use fast fuse, and what we're going to do is we are going to fold these two flaps in and just glue them to the bottom of the paper here. And what that's going to do is help reinforce the box bottom here. And so I'm just going to put some fuse down here, a couple of strips. Because on this, what I really want to make sure is that this stays down. Okay, so I'm lining that up against that score line here along the edge. And let me lay some fuse down on this end as well. Oops, upside down. On this side here. And again, lining up against that score line and laying that piece down. And you can see that the basic box is practically built. There's just not a whole heck of a lot to it. Okay, so what we're going to do is close up these two flaps, and we are going to score these two flaps. And this time, I think I'm going to use my trimmer. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to use my trimmer. Because what I'm going to do is place this at, let me just look at my notes and double check. Okay, I'm going to place this at 11 inches on my trimmer, and I'm going to score this side. Now what I'm going to do is turn it around and flip it over so I can do exactly the same thing. Place this at 11 inches here and score there. All right, and that is going to make the pieces that wrap around our box front. So as the box closes, those pieces will come around here and close around behind the box. Okay, so then we're going to put it back on the trimmer here, and I'm going to set this down at 10¼ inches. So 10¼ inches here. And I'm going to move this piece out of the way, and I'm going to cut that piece away. Then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to set this at 8½ inches. 8½ inches. And fold this piece under, and I'm going to cut this piece away. And basically what we've done is cut 1 3/4 inches off of each of this side. And now you can see when the box closes up what's going to happen here, that these pieces are going to come around and close around, and that is, for all intents and purposes, the base of this box put together. So now I'm going to set this aside. All right, and the next thing I'm going to do is take another piece, because what we're going to do next, we have the basic box there built. This very first pocket on the inside that's going to hold the cards is what we're going to put into place next. So let's see. I'm torn with wanting to leave that open and closing it so that it stays put. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece that is 8½ by 4¼ and this makes the inside back pocket to hold the cards. So with this piece, I'm going to move that one out of the way. This piece needs to be scored at 1 1/4 inches on 3 sides. So score at 1 1/4, score at 1 1/4, and one last time at 1 1/4. And what we're going to do with this piece is we're going to fold and burnish these fold lines. And we are going to cut away both of these little corners. So cutting away up the score line here and taking out that corner, and we're going to do the same thing on this side, taking out that corner. And I am going to just take a tiny sliver notch on both sides here. So a tiny sliver there and a tiny sliver there. And I end up with a little ragged piece here that I'm going to cut away. Okay, same thing on this side. Just a tiny little notch on either side. Okay, there we go. So those pieces are gone. Now what we're going to do is we are going to set some fast fuse. Let me get my silicone mat out here so I don't make a big mess with the glue. And I'm going to put some glue right down along this edge here, and some along, oops, and some along this edge here. And then on the sides, I'm going to put some glue also on both of those edges, the inside and the outside. And then again here on the inside edge and the outside edge. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is bring my box back in, and I am going to set, I got a little glue kind of coming out the back end here. Let me see if I can get rid of a little bit of that. Glue erasers are magic. And I'm going to set, black on black is probably a little hard to see, but what I'm going to do is set this edge here against this fold line here. So right into that little piece right there. So I'm going to set that down right there, and make sure that that is nice and glued down. Now you'll know we have 3 layers along the bottom of this box. That's going to make that very sturdy. Now what we're going to do is fold this up, and we're going to put these 2 corners together here. So this is, you know, I want to put a little bit more glue on the inside edge of this piece here. There. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to fold this edge here against this edge here to create our little pocket. And so I'm going to set this, I think you can see that, right in along that score line, and then fold this edge over to get a nice crisp fold. Then I'm going to use my bone folder on the inside of this edge, and I've got a nice square folding there. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to fold this edge down and bring this edge over. I'm tucking this piece into the score line along here, because that's kind of where I want this. Then fold this over and get that edge right along the inside edge there. So there we have created our pocket, and that pocket is going to hold our A2 cards in the back. Now that is nice and secure in there like that. All right, and something I should have done is I want this covered back here so that it's not bare, and it also continues to be reinforced. So I'm going to look for my piece. This piece is 5 7/8 by 4 inches and is for the inside back panel. And if I'd have been thinking, I would have put that in place before I folded that up. But this is what I want to have happen. I want this piece right in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use some snail and just carefully put that inside there. Okay. And this one you just want to watch on your diagonal pattern that it is where you want it. And I'm just going to put this in place and leave a tiny little border along the back edge here. And I want this to be a big enough piece that it goes down and you can't see that it doesn't go all the way down on the paper. But now that's all put in place on the inside for that decoration. The next thing we're going to do is add the two little pockets in front here. But before I do that, I'm going to add the DSP on this one so that when I put my pockets in front of it, this is already done, which is what I should have done for the other one. This piece measures 5 7/8 by 2 3/4. And I'm just going to use some snail on this one. And again, I used directional pattern here because I wanted this to match. And I'm going to leave just a tiny little border all the way around. And there, now that piece is nice and in place, and we've got our decoration started. The next piece I'm going to look for here is I have two pieces. I have one that is 5 1/2 by 2 inches and one that is 4 1/2 by 2 inches in the black, and that is going to create our next set of pockets in here. That's the 5 1/2 by 2 will hold our 3 by 3 cards, and the 4 1/2 will hold the gift tags. And what we're going to do is, let me move this out of the way because we're going to need to score these pieces. And we are going to need to score these pieces. Let me look at my notes again. 1/2 inch and 1 inch on both sides. So 1/2 inch and 1 inch, and what's going to happen is this then is going to get folded like this, and that's going to go in place here. And then we're going to do the same thing with this piece, the 5 1/2 by 2 inch. We're going to score at 1/2 inch and 1 inch, and then turn it around and do the same thing. 1 1/2 or 1/2 and 1, and then these will fold in like this, and that is the pocket that will go on this side. Let me move this out of the way so you can see what I'm doing here. So now I have both of these pieces scored and folded, and they're going to go right here in the front and make the pockets for the 3 by 3 cards and the gift tags. So what I'm going to do is put some fast fuse on the outside flap here and the outside flap here. Then I'm going to fold this, and I'm going to start on one edge, and I'm going to take this folded edge and put it right along the edge of the box. I think you can see here what I'm doing, right along the edge of the box. There, putting that in place. Then this picks up, it creates the pocket. So then I'm going to put this one to make it square down here, to make it square and secure that back to this panel right along the back of the panel. Okay, so that one's in place. Now we're going to do the same thing with this one. A little fast fuse on that outside panel, and a little fast fuse along this outside panel, and put this in place. In fact, on this one, I'm going to put fuse on the other panel on one side because I want that piece to not only stick to the back of the box, but also to stick to the one that's next to it. So I'm going to put that in place there, so it sticks both to the back of the panel and to the pocket next to it. Then this piece will go in here and should marry up right with the edge of this end of the box. And you can see that it does. So now I can use my bone folder and my hand here to make sure that that is all nice and secure there. Now, there we have the back of our box complete with the place for the A2 cards, 3x3 cards, and the gift tags. Now, what I did was I cut a piece of paper that is 5 7/8 by 1 7/8 because I want this piece to go all the way along here. Now, in some videos I've seen where people make this two pieces and cover each box, but I like the consistency of the 3 pieces going all the way across. So I'm going to just use some snail on this. Get my little note cards out of the way here. Accumulating a little thing, few little things in the way here. And let's see, some snail, finish putting snail along this piece here, and then we're going to lay this piece right down here, leaving a tiny little margin around. There we go. All right, so now I have the inside back part of this box complete. And these extra added layers that we've put on here makes these a little sturdier yet than they would be. Every layer that you add to a box like this makes it a bit sturdier. Now you see how this is going to close around here. So we have some decorating to do on the front of our box and then complete the inside. So I have a piece that's cut 5 7/8 by 4 7/8, and that is the box front. So I'm going to put some snail on this piece and put that in place. Okay, so I'm going to put this here so that it has a little bit of a margin. Not much. I cut this piece so that it covered most of this box front. So there we go. Put that down in place, and the front of my box is now covered. Now I have 2 pieces that I am going to put in place along these 2 panels here. They're cut at 4 7/8 by 1 7/8, and they're going to go right here. So I'm going to put some snail on these, and put these in place now. Then the front of my box is, for all intents and purposes, done. Now, we have to worry about the inside of the box, and what I have is, this is the stamp pocket, and it's cut at 2.5 by 2 1/4. And what we're going to do with this one is we are going to score this at 1/4 inch on 3 sides. And we're going to put this little pocket right here. So I'm going to score this, let's see if I want to, at the 1/4 inch mark on 3 sides. Okay, and then I'm going to fold those little score lines here. And for this one, I found that actually using a little wet glue seemed to hold this in place the best. So I'm going to use my Tombow here, and I'm going to put some wet glue all along one side here. And I guess I better do it on this side as well then. And then putting this in place along this, well, it needs to come down here, right along this edge, and getting that put in place, and then folding up this bottom piece, so, and then putting glue along this edge and this other edge to fold this over and glue this little piece down. And I'm afraid I've gotten glue kind of all over everything here. So I'm going to need a baby wipe. And then because it's Tombow and it's water-based, of course this glue we can erase once it's dried. So there we have our pocket for our stamps. Now, I don't want to put any more water down on that because I don't want that to peel. Okay, so there's that in place. Then I have this piece that is 6.5 by 3.5, and I scored it at 3 1/8 and 3 3/8, and then folded it so that I get this shape. And that is going to fit right here, and then we're going to glue a post-it note to the inside of this. And the nice thing about using a post-it note is when the post-it notes that you put in to begin with are done, somebody can just glue in another set of post-it notes, and this isn't finite. I mean, it's not done because you don't have this done. All right, so excuse me. What I'm going to do is again use my liquid glue, excuse me, and put some glue on the back of this post-it note holder and get that set in place right here, not all the way to the top, but inside the fold mark for here, and leaving myself a margin. And the most important thing is just to get this thing in here straight. And there it is, straight. And then let me grab a Post-it note. Okay, so what I have is a Post-it note here, and that's pretty thick. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to tear it in half. And what I'm going to do is put a little bit of glue on the back side of this Post-it note, and I am going to glue that in place here on my Post-it note holder and have that be there. Pinch this a little bit, and there I have my Post-it note in place, and I have cut a little piece of DSP to go on the top. This is 3 by 3 1/4, and this can be done with Snail. So we'll put a little bit of Snail on the back of this piece and put this in place on our Post-it note top, and there we have our Post-it note all ready to go. Then I have another piece. Here it is. This piece is 2.5 by 1.5, and what I have done with this piece is I have scored it at every 1/2 inch for the 2.5 inch length. So this can fold over and over, over and over again, so that it creates a little cylinder, and that's what we're going to glue in place right down here at the bottom to hold our pen. And in this case I made it a triangle, and I wasn't very happy with how sturdy it was. So this one I made 1/2 inch, and then you can just slide your pen in here. And I have got these little mini gel pens that I got at Office Depot, and I think that'll work. And as long as this is, you know, most pens are, the clip is a little bit shorter on one side, so if I put this down here, it'll hold a longer pen as well. So what I need is a little bit of liquid glue to close up my cylinder first of all. So some glue there to make my square. So I'm going to close that up and make my square and hold on to that for a second. And then I'm going to take this and put some more liquid glue on the back of here, and then put this in place right along here on the bottom. And I'm going to hold that. I'll use my pen here to secure it in place. Let me close this one up again. Well, that's drying. And so now I've got a placeholder for my pen on the inside of the box. Now we have left to do the inside front panels here, and so I have two pieces that are cut at 4 7/8 by 1 7/8, and I've cut two of those, one to go on either side of the inside of the box here. So I'm going to just use some Snail. Let me move these out of the way. So I'm going to use some Snail on this inside panel here and put that in place right in here. took care of that place. I had that smudge of glue. That's good. Then I'm going to do the same thing with this one. We're going to put some snail on this and put this panel in place here. Move that up just a little. And there we have basically the inside of our box completed. And so now we will move on to making the lid. And so for that, I have a piece of basic black that I have cut to 10 3/8 by 6 3/8. And let me get to my notes for the lid. Okay, 10 3/8 by 6 3/8. And what we're going to do is score this on all four sides at 2 1/8. So I'm going to bring my trimmer back in, and we are going to set this up at 2 1/8 here, and score, and then turn it 2 1/8. We'll turn it 2 1/8, and the last one at 2 1/8. Okay, now what we're going to do is, this is just a normal box lid, but the woman who put this together originally did something a little different, and I kind of liked it. And what she did was, I hope you can see those score lines. On black it's a little tough, but you have the two score lines here that make this square corner. And what she did was just cut from one corner diagonally all the way across to the other corner. And you don't have to worry about this being perfect. You just want to cut it across. So again, on all four corners, and I'm going to aim for the other corner here. And it doesn't work, it doesn't matter if they're perfect because they're all going to be hidden anyway. And then again across here, and just eyeballing it to get to the other corner. One last one, cutting across to get to the other corner. Okay, so let me get rid of these pieces here. And so now I need to fold and burnish my score lines. And then we're going to cut up the score line on one corner of this little triangle to create a flap on all four sides. So we're going to cut here, turn it around, and do the same thing on this side. Cut up that score line, and here, this last one, cut up the score line. And now what we're going to do is fold these ends in, fold these ends up, and we will have our box lid. Now, before we do that, I'm going to add my designer series paper, and what I have is 3 pieces. I have 3 pieces that are 5 7/8 by 2, and those are the pieces that are going to go on the 3 long pieces that we have here. And then I have 2 pieces that are cut 2 inches by 2 1/8 inches, and those are going to be put on there. So I'm going to take my silicone mat and my snail here and put those pieces in place. Now we're going to put some fuse on these edges here. And we're going to secure these box corners. So matching this edge to this edge here, we will put those 2 ends together and get a nice crisp corner, and then do the same thing on this other end, again like that. And I can see I should have put my fast fuse on before I closed up that other flap, so I'm going to have to put my fuse on the inside here so I can see what it is I'm doing. So I'm going to have to do this one out of camera shot, but what I'm going to do is put fuse right along that edge there. See if I can get this over on the corner of my table, or I can get the fuse down the way I want it. Note to self, when you do yours, you put fuse on all 4 sides before you get started. Okay, so again, closing this corner up to make a nice crisp corner, and the same thing on this last one. There we go. All right, and so there we have our box lid, and I'm just going to go all the way around the box and burnish everything down, because that gets the designer series paper and the corners. Now I'll bring our box back in, and if everything has been measured right, this box lid should go right over and cover the box. And there we have our box completed. Now I have some of this pretty shimmer ribbon, and if I come around the box enough to make, on this one I just tied a double knot and trimmed the edges, and I think I'll do the same on this. Let me cut this ribbon and I'll tell you how long it needs to be in order to do this. Okay, so this piece of ribbon is, let's see, ribbon is almost 22 inches long, and when I put this in place so that I know that roughly half is going to go on the back of the box, I want to get the center of the ribbon, so I'm just going to measure it and fold it in half so that I know that the back of the box, this is the center of my ribbon. I want this to lay across here, and what I'm going to do is kind of pinch that one in the center so that I know where that center is, and I'm going to put a little bit of snail on this ribbon along the back so that the ribbon won't slide off the box. So I've got my little mark that I made right here, so I'm going to put some snail on both sides of that mark, and then I'm going to turn this around and lay this piece of ribbon with the snail on it across the back of my box and secure that in place, and then pull it around to the front and tie my double knot. And you could do a full bow, but you'd probably need 26 to 30 inches of ribbon to do that. And I think I'm going to be perfectly happy with a double knot on the front of this box. There. And then I'll just trim my tails on here so that I have, it looks like I chewed it. Let me try a good pair of scissors. Here, there we go. So I'm just going to trim these two edges like that. In fact, this one now can be a little bit shorter, and get my knot done here. And then to secure this down, I'm going to put a glue dot on the back of my knot here. So I'm going to take one glue dot and put it on the back of the knot that I just tied and put that into place. So with securing that on the back and then this on the front, that knot isn't going to go any place, and this ribbon is going to stay nice and in place. Now, there is my box all ready for the inside pieces that I plan to put on this. And let's see, now that I have, so there I have my box complete with the place for all of my pieces to go in, and my lid that secures this in place. And again, it's lots of little pieces, but I will have every single measurement down below for the DSP and for the cardstock, so that you could replicate this box. And I think you could see, while there are a lot of pieces to it, it's really not that difficult. I was surprised when I put this together. I thought I'd be at it for several hours, and it really wasn't that bad. So there you have it. There's my stationery box. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, and I want to thank you for joining me today on my YouTube channel. I do appreciate it. And you can purchase the cardstock and this lovely DSP called the Whole Lot of Lovely paper suite, and it's just beautiful. And certainly you could change up the colors. There's so many pretty patterns that we have. I think this would be delightful in one of those daisy patterns. There's enough different papers in there that I think you could achieve the two-tone look like I've done here with any number of the beautiful papers that we have this year from Stampin' Up. And anything can be purchased on my website, www.lbettinger.stampinup.net. And you've got a couple days left, one day, today and tomorrow, for the spend $50 this month and get a $5 coupon for next month to spend on Stampin' Up products. And to join Stampin' Up under me, the deal this month is, again, just through the month of July, $125 for $99 to join, $40 worth of product from me for joining my team. And there is a special that they've got going called an Essentials Pack, which is a set of snips, a bone folder, 2 acrylic D blocks, a pad of this grid paper that's got 100 sheets in it, and seems to me there's a snail. And so they call it an Essentials Pack, and if you're joining this month, you can get that as the result, and also an early release Christmas stamp set that is available. And so it ends up being $235 worth of product for $99. It's just an amazing deal. In any case, thanks again for stopping by, and I'll be back with more projects and more cards very soon. Bye.